Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the DELCO Cross Country Podcast. With you as always, my name is Kevin Kee, breaking down all things Delaware County cross country. And there's a lot of things on my mind today on this episode of this podcast. So this will not be a video podcast. I know a lot of people are going to be upset about that. No one is actually going to be upset about that. But there's a lot of things I want to break down in this episode as we linger closer to cross-country meets. We're getting there. They're coming. It's getting there soon. So I'm very excited for cross-country meets up ahead. I know there's the Oakmont or Oakville or Oak something relays this weekend. I'm not on MileSplit to read exactly what that is. But we do have a big weekend, Labor Day weekend ahead next weekend, which I'm excited to talk about as well. But this episode is actually going to be broken down into segments. This episode is going to give you a Life of Coach Kee, which is myself. It's going to break down Cross Country 101. So for those who've never actually understood what cross country scoring is and what it takes to be at a cross country meet and what it's like to be a spectator at these meets, that portion of the episode is going to be for you. And finally, I'm going to end with the class battle. DELCO class battle. Which class is better? The sophomore class, the junior class, or the senior class in Delaware County? I put it together really quickly, and I thought it was very fun to break down and do in this case. And there might be some surprises within that portion of the episode. But first, I'm going to start a new segment, and this segment is called Life of Coach Kee. Insert the music. Can you hear that? It's very inspirational, or it's very silly. Whichever version of music you think would be a good backtrack right there, that's the music that's going on right now. But here's the Life of Coach Kee. With the Lower Merion girls team, we do icebreakers during stretching portions of practice. All right, and they're icebreakers. They're fun. They're silly. There's different things that they do. So the other day, the girls, they broke down an icebreaker of, if you can live in one place, where would it be? If you can live in one place, anywhere in the world, where will it be? And of course, my mind starts to question different things. Like, I automatically think of my job. Will I have to work again? Things like that. So that's where my mind goes when that question has. These girls, they have brilliant answers. They're going to travel all over the world. They will live in, someone said Japan, someone said Italy, Florida. Like, there are all these different places which they could live. And then it comes to me. So they did do a coach's portion of this. And then it came to me. And of course, all I'm thinking about is politics behind it, the workplace behind it, what I would think about when it comes to living in this one space. And there are two places I would probably live. I can't deal with the heat. I just can't. My body can't do it. So like Florida and that southern portion, that's all out. All right, so that's out. Florida would be great. I would love it, but it's out. On top of that, they don't pay teachers as well. So completely out. Again, my mind rolling with it, academics. And then they're saying all these places. I mean, the only place that I would live other than America would probably be Ireland in reality. But I'm sticking with America. And then I'm thinking, okay, where would this place be? And I chose, and to some laughter, I said the best place to live is DELCO. There's something about the pride of this place, of Delaware County. And I said, hey, I'm here. I live in the place I want to live. I live in DELCO. I'm happy to be part of DELCO. And some chuckled at that. Some just didn't even give a response. Like, they didn't hear what I said. Until yesterday. It comes up. I was talking to another assistant coach at Lower Merion. And there were a couple of the members of the team in our conversation. And they say, we asked the question the other day, if you could live anywhere, where would it be? And this fool says DELCO. Like, who wants to just stay in DELCO his whole life? This fool wants to stay in DELCO his whole life. I said, I take pride in DELCO. I said, I mean, come on, it's better than Monco. Like, who wants to live in Monco? Which, of course, that's where Lower Merion is in Monco. So I like to tease a little bit there. But it was funny. I thought they were entertained by my answer, and obviously, DELCO is a great place to live. So I live in my happiness. I live in my realm of happy. And now they're going to tease me for the rest of the season. And I'm about to go off to Rose Tree Park for practice. And I'm going to be wearing my DELCO hat with my DELCO pride every step of the way at Rose Tree Park. And they may or may not like what's about to happen at practice, which is going to be exciting. Because we're heading off to some of the hills of Rose Tree. And maybe I'll bring my microphone. Who knows? You know how DELCO is. We have a nice little pride to ourselves. All right, but for that was the Life of Coach Kee. I can't wait to break out some more stories throughout this season coming up ahead. This portion of the podcast is brought to you by DELCO Beads. Whether you're looking to add some personality to your race day gear, celebrate your team, or just show off your DELCO pride, DELCO Beads has you covered. They've got some unique, customizable bracelets and accessories that are perfect for athletes, coaches, families, and fans. So support a local business and show your DELCO pride with DELCO Beads. You can follow them at DELCO Beads on Instagram. Check out DELCO Beads and let them know the DELCO Cross Country Podcast sent you. We are officially post that practice at Rose Tree Park. Great seeing the boys of Pencrest up at Rose Tree getting a distance run in, as well as some striders. That was actually really cool to see as they prepare for the season. But I did something funny at Rose Tree Park with them being the DELCO coach, because I'm from DELCO and I'm very proud of it, and they know I'm very proud of it. So what I did was I created a reel and a video with my team and a couple of the athletes and the coach. And the head coach, I said, listen, you only have one answer. And the only thing you need to say, no matter what question I ask you, is the word leaving. So I asked them what their favorite part of DELCO was other than their coach. And it was actually really funny, their reactions of like, oh my gosh, this course is terrible, and how much they dislike Rose Tree Park as a course as a whole. Even though they had a great workout and they're getting prepared for the season, I did find it funny because at the end, it's me asking the coach. And the final question was, what is your favorite part about DELCO? And her answer was leaving, which made it all the funny, especially since I set it up that way to create an Instagram reel. So once again, the humor that comes from coaching cross country, especially girls who live in Monco. But that was my input and my thought process as a way around Coach Kee's corner and a day in the life of me. So that was a lot of fun. And the next segment in which I said I was going to talk about is Cross Country 101 for those newbies who are really new to this sport in general and don't really know what to expect to go into a cross country meet. And there's a lot of expectation, a lot of nerves that go into a week one of a cross country, and then you kind of get the hang of different things that happen. One of my biggest advice for parents or for newbies to the sport is ask questions. If you don't know where to go, ask questions of where to go. Or you can follow the crowd. But I'm going to tell you, this is the one sport in which the spectator runs a lot of the race. So you're going to be running point to point to get to different places on a cross-country course. You can't really stand in one spot and catch everything or catch a lot of the race. You're going to actually have to run from place to place. So make sure you got your running shoes. Make sure you bring your tennis shoes. Or your sneakers. I do not like saying tennis shoes. That might be a poll question soon. Make sure you bring your sneakers to run place to place on a cross-country course because you're going to be running a lot. So just be prepared for that, especially if you want to catch your child from place to place on the course. The basics of cross-country go into the scoring aspect of cross-country. You will see that there are 7 varsity runners on a lineup in a varsity race. Normally, those are your 7 fastest on the team, or 7 most reliable on the team. Of those 7, the top 5 of them score. So what happens is the place in which they finish, that is the point total they receive for their team. And just like golf, it would be the lowest points win. So if you finish first in a race, you have scored 1 point for your team. If you scored 15th in the race, you scored 15 points for the team, and so on and so forth. You total the top 5 athletes together, and that will give you your point score for that race. Now, if it does end up as a tie, and the 5th runner is tied with a team from another 5th runner, and then it goes into that tiebreaker scenario, the tiebreaker goes to where 6th place finished. So your 6th man or your 6th woman, and where they finish on the cross-country course, that is where that tiebreaker situation will come in. And if the 6th person beats the 6th person of the other team, that is your tie-breaking scenario in a cross-country race. So just some basics of this. Just like I said, cross-country is a lot like golf, where it is the lowest point total wins a cross-country meet. And that's where you get into different rankings and things like that. You will see rankings on the DELCO Cross Country Podcast Instagram page. You'll see it on PA Mile Split. You'll see it in different places. A lot of those rankings are based off of the fastest times for those teams. So the fastest runners, the fastest times, and a lot of that is a breakdown. Now I do want to let you know, even though every course is a 3.1 mile course, not all courses are created equally. All right? Some courses are harder than others. Just like golf, some courses are harder than others. All right? Some courses will have a lot of hills, and you need to understand what that course looks like. And some courses are notably faster than others. For instance, if you're comparing Lehigh University's course to Belmont Plateau, there's a good difference there, because Lehigh's course is very flat, and the course at Belmont Plateau is very hilly, just like kind of Rose Tree Park. So you'll be hearing comparisons between courses at different times. You'll see that Whippet's Invitational is a lot different than DELCO Championships. All right, you'll see that those times will be different based off of the location, based off the challenge of the course. So you can see that as these races progress, you will get faster times at faster courses. That's kind of just notable. But also, as a racer, you do want to go and match up against people and try to misplace other teams within these races. And that's what you're going for. You're trying to go and you're trying to beat other people and break open races. So that the cross-country team score can just continue to drop lower in your favor. That is why you'll hear cross-country coaches talk a lot about pack running, and the beauty of pack running is you take multiple people passing by 1 or 2 people, and that just gives your score a little bit lower of a score, and the team that you're passing higher of a score, because they are now being displaced or in that race. All right, so that's kind of cross-country 101. Just make sure that you have things prepared. Snacks afterwards are always important. Make sure those electrolytes are built up. Liquid IV is great. Gatorade is great. Sometimes it just depends on what type of Gatorade. You kind of want to go lower sugar-wise, so Gatorade Zero is pretty good. It just depends on your athlete, and in reality, you know your child. So always make sure that they are prepared the day of a race, water, liquid, anything to do to remain hydrated, because they are racing a 5K, which is 3.1 miles, and you'll be running a lot of that race too, so make sure that you are also hydrated throughout that time period. Let me add a few more things when it comes to cross-country and like rookies and spectators first ever viewing a cross-country course. One of the things you need to understand is that even though the beginning and the end are important and the finish line is important, the most important part is kind of like the middle of the race. So you have to, you shouldn't assume that the race is decided right at the finish line. In a cross-country race, a runner can gain or lose several places throughout a course. And if you're able to move around safely, like I said, running around point to point, and seeing your athlete or your child at those different points and give you a much better sense of how a race is developing. One of the other things you also need to know as a spectator is that even though races can be short, like sometimes they last anywhere between 15 or 30 minutes, depending on that level of competition, there are multiple races, and a meet does last several hours. Because you have 2 varsity races in a normal meet. You have a girls varsity, a boys varsity. You have multiple JV races, a girls JV, a boys JV. And sometimes you have a freshman or a novice race. Sometimes those races are combined, so it'd be a girl and a boy gender together, kind of like I believe DELCO Championships does that. Sometimes they're separate races in general, so sometimes it's hours of competition, and you'll see the coaches have to run from place to place, and they don't always have the opportunity to talk to your child right away because they're now focused in on that next race, which might be 5 minutes after the finish of that last race. So just be aware that there are different races throughout a meet day. And again, as I've said earlier, you're never going to see your child the entire time. They race through woods, they race through fields, different trails sometimes. So you'll see them at the start and then points of those races to the finish line. And then the other thing is that, as I said, every position matters. So if you're cheering for a team, don't just watch that front runner. A runner who's finishing 37th instead of 38th can potentially change a team score, which makes cross country incredibly exciting once you understand the scoring, which I've already mentioned to you earlier in this episode. How to be a good spectator is make sure that you're cheering loudly. All right, those runners throughout a course might be spread out in those races, so hearing their name or their school might give them a huge boost of energy. So if you see your child, make sure you're screaming for your child their name. Hey, let's go! All right, or cheering for a team name gives them a boost of energy. Another one is cheering for everyone, especially the team that you're a part of. Even though XC is an individual sport, it is wrapped inside this team sport. So an athlete struggling throughout the race, especially in different parts of the race, they may need that encouragement just as much as the leaders of a race. There is an etiquette to a course, though. So there's important things to know as first-time spectators. Stay off the course. That's number one. At Rose Tree, it's very hard, especially as you see the starting line and the finish line. And I was actually talking about this earlier today at practice. You do tend to get on the runner's path. So if someone is yelling at you to get off the course, just listen. I know sometimes it's hard, but you do impede a runner's path, and you don't want to stand in that runner's path in a race. You also don't want to cross the course while the race is underway. If you're able to cross safely, that's going to matter. Maybe even listening to race officials, course marshals, even like the coaching staff. If you're able to hear what they're saying, or they're able to have that conversation with you, just be weary and be aware. That's kind of like the biggest thing. It is also important to kind of keep pets like dogs away from a racing area, or even sometimes young children who tend to run onto a path. You do want to keep them away from those racing areas just so they don't get hurt, or athletes in the race don't get hurt. Another thing is you cannot run next to your athlete or next to your child. It is actually called pacing. So you can't actually pace your athlete throughout a race. You can't give any athletes food, drinks, or any other assistance during the race unless a meet official specifically allows it. Like, for instance, if an athlete goes down in the race, you don't want to go out there and, I know our natural instinct is like, hey, go pick them up. Sometimes they'll pick themselves up and just keep running because they know if they get touched during a race, they're automatically disqualified. So you have to be aware of that as well. And be especially careful around those narrow sections, turns, and the finishing chute of a race. So that leaves you to hey, where should I watch these races? Typically, if you're unfamiliar with a course, you kind of want to look at 3 different locations. The starting line, it's a great way to see the initial positioning and the chaos of that first 400 meters. You can also go into a key mid-course location. usually a hill or a difficult section, a lot of people like to put themselves out there with another group of people. Some people like to be in an open field where they can see who's racing aggressively or who's struggling. I like to find myself in an open field. I constantly see Coach Kane from Ridley in any place I go during a cross-country race, and we end up taking a selfie because we're always together, which is really funny that we will just end up at those same spots, and you'll see those coaches who do end up at the same spots throughout races. So that's also a great place to be. And obviously you have the most exciting location, which is the finish, that final stretch and team finishes. So if you're willing, you do want to move throughout a course. Like I said, put on those sneakers, or those tennis shoes as people call them. Go from the start to the middle of the course to the finish is your best spectator experience. Biggest thing to understand as a new spectator, you're not just watching who finishes first. You're watching where every runner finishes and how those places add up to a total. So once you understand that a team's fifth runner can be just as important as his first runner, cross country becomes much easier to understand and is much more exciting. I hope you enjoyed the Cross Country 101 portion of this podcast as we continue to move on and get excited for the upcoming cross country season. This portion of the podcast is sponsored by the Ridley Running Company. Whether you're training for your next 5K, getting ready for the cross-country season, or just looking for the right gear to keep you moving, Ridley Running Company is your local running resource. From shoes and apparel to expert advice and everything you need to get out the door and onto the roads and trails, Ridley Running Company is there for the Delaware County running community. So support a local business that supports local runners. Ridley Running Company. Tell them the DELCO XC Podcast sent you. Let's get down to the gritty. Let's get down to the reason why you're all here. And that is the battle of the DELCO classes. The battle for the ages. In reality, it's just a battle between classes. And obviously the freshman class will not be included in this. What I did to get this information was I took the top 50 incoming sophomores, 50 incoming juniors, 50 incoming seniors, and I put them against each other in a scoring realm of a cross-country race. So again, just like in regular cross-country scoring, the top 5 would score, the top, with 6 and 7 being the tiebreakers. Sorry, my mind, my thought process just went a little wire miscrossed there for a second. So I did with the normal cross-country scoring for this type of event. Obviously, these things probably came out to what you would think they would come out to, where a class depth would be stronger in certain age realms. For instance, like the seniors, they get a little bit more respect because they're seniors, versus a sophomore who's only done it for 1 year in cross country, and the depth and the building isn't really there yet. This is the year for that sophomore class, that freshman building up, that pure summer training in which these sophomores really get an idea of who they're going to become now, as well as the potential they bring in the future. So that sophomore class is going to build up and get stronger as the years progress. For the DELCO cross-country storyline, however, the sophomore class really doesn't have the hopes of, say, the junior and the senior class because the strength isn't there as much within your freshman year. However, we do have a great story behind this. The girls in the DELCO cross-country storyline, they have a battle where the boys have more of a dynasty here. On the girls' end, you're going to see a hypothetical championship that is much closer than the boys' end would have. So let's break down the boys first. The boys' results are dramatically a little different than the girls' results. The boys' results, you have a perfect score. All right, the top 7 runners from each class, putting all of those 21 into a hypothetical race and scoring in a traditional cross-country fashion. your first 5 runners finishing count towards that team score. The seniors would have a perfect score. If you know what a perfect score in cross country is, that is the team going first, second, third, fourth, and fifth in said race, with even the seniors going sixth. So if you're looking at this potential score, the seniors would have 15 total points, with the 7 senior runners, the 7 senior returners, being number 1, Rowan Carr from Pencrest, number 2, Ryan Cleary, number 3, Sean Holst-Wrightley, number 4, Charles Mahalan, number 5, Julian Bothma, number 6, Connor Walsh, and number 7, Paul Alua. Now, you add up their total scores of 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, which equal to 15 total points. The juniors would have finished 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 10th, 12th, and 13th in this race, with the sophomores taking 11th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th. The juniors would have a score between 51 and 52 points. That would have been led by Luca Fantazzi of Strathaven. You have Caleb Young, Nick Lancey, Colin Kennedy, John Keith, Amon Carlin, and Andres Calderon as your top 7 prediction. Now, the interesting part is that Luca Fantazzi's 1615.10 exactly matches Paul Alua's 1615.10. So you have the time for both there, so you can't really legitimately assign if Luca would finish 7th or he would finish 8th in this, unless they are literally battling head-to-head hypothetically here. However, the boys' score would still score about 51 or 52 within this race, and also give the juniors a second place finish comfortably in this one. Then you have the incoming sophomore class, which is the freshman class from last year. You would have them finishing 11th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, scoring a total of 73 points. The sophomore class would be led by Nick Kane of Ridley. You have Oliver Brody. You have Colin Park. You have Rudy Gork, who has, by the way, who has transferred out. So Rudy might not even be on this list because he is actually going to Malvern this year and has left DELCO. Rudy, you just disappointed me, man. I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed. All right, you're going to Mongo. You know, it's not DELCO. You're going to Mongo. Sorry, no more coverage for you after today. No more coverage for you. You have Dylan Adams, who's 1748, and then a couple of the other names in here. Manashi Kachidze, which you know I'm going to butcher that name, and Dean O'Donnell. Again, the scoring positions would have been 11th, 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th, going a total of 73 points. Now this is where things get interesting, though. While the boys have a runaway and a dynasty, the girls do not. The girls, they have a showcase. The girls, it's going to come down to a great race and who would be up for that race. This is going to change the result a lot. All right, in third place on the girls' end, with a finish of 3rd, 10th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, is the sophomore class putting up 67 points. Oh my gosh, did I really just say those two numbers together? Oh, I feel so ashamed. Kayla Gaffney, she would finish 3rd overall with an 1847, and Jessica DeMaio would finish 10th at 1923. But the next 3 scoring runners would be a little bit farther back. You have Elizabeth McGlone, you have Caitlin King, you have Isabel Shaw, who are putting up some great times in some great races, and they would finish the scoring places of 3rd, 10th, 17th, 18th, and 19th, giving you a score of the dreaded number that all of the teachers and parents and families... I thought this thing died in, like, December. You know, they scored 6-7, you know? I thought it died in December, and then I did, like, summer camp and worked a day camp, and it all came back, and I have a headache from it. All right, in second place, this is where things get interesting. This is where the race comes down to a 3-point separation separated these two classes. The senior class would be 1, 4, 6, 11, and 12, scoring a total of 34 points. We're the junior class. And this is where cross country really gets exciting, because like I said, that low stick is a great stick. However, it's where all those 5 displace other runners, and where they displace, that is a huge factor in everything here. The juniors would have went 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, giving them a total of 31 points and the Battle of DELCO Class Championship. You know, the one that will never actually happen, but it's interesting to see. These 7 runners on the senior end, they would be led by the individual winner of Kendra Williamson. But after that, the juniors' depth starts to make a difference. The senior scoring places would be 1, 4, 6, 11, 12. So the seniors, even though they have the fastest runners, the juniors would put 5 runners ahead of the 4th senior runner in this case. Which means the juniors, who they might not have the fastest individual runner, but they have 7 athletes that could displace that senior class a little bit more. Your seniors that you're looking at are Kendra Williamson of Episcopal Academy, Caitlin Anderson, Avery DeCecco, Mara Carey, Clara Humphrey, Ava Cavanaugh, and Michaela Corcoran, and they would be displaced by a junior class that would be led by Sloan Smith of Marple Newtown, followed by Cece Kane, followed by Coco Connor, followed by Hannah Todd, and then your 5th runner, which it usually comes down to, of Cassidy Jones. A great senior class, or a great battle between the senior class and the junior class, with the juniors pulling off a 31-point to 34-point upset in this case between juniors and seniors. This just shows you the depth that this junior and senior class really has in Delaware County. Combining like a total of those 5 scoring juniors, like that depth is incredible. 6 and 7 for the junior class would be Addie Atkins and Tegan Spivey. Again, a battle of the classes in Delaware County. Things will get interesting. There's so much depth within Delaware County. And on the girls' end, you kind of see that depth like build up, starting the girls' freshman years and their sophomore years, all the way into their senior years. And you can see that steady progression from the girls' programs, where boys, you see a progression in time. So while they might not have the strongest freshman year, you could see the growth of a boy building up from their freshman summer into their sophomore summer into their junior summer. And by the time they're a junior or senior, a whole shift could potentially happen, which is what you're going to see this year in Delaware County cross country. You're going to see this shift and this mind change of different athletes and the body change of different athletes, which makes the way too early predictions that I came out with weeks ago not matter by the time DELCO Championships comes around in October. Those things are not going to matter once we get to DELCO Championships, once we get to Central Championships, once we get to Interact Championships. None of this is going to matter. And that's what makes cross country such a beautiful sport. Once again, my name is Kevin King. You have been listening to the DELCO Cross Country Podcast. You need to do me a favor, though. You need to make sure you're following the podcast anywhere you stream your podcast, whether that's Spotify, Apple, iHeart, YouTube, wherever you go and follow and listen to this podcast. I need you to follow it. I need you to give this podcast a 5-star review. It's for the algorithm, so it's perfect. Just do it for the algorithm, okay? All right. This podcast, again, needs to take over cross-country running in general. I already know that there's some jealousy in Montco. I already know there's some jealousy in Bucksco that they don't have the coverage that you have in DELCO, and that's because you're special, DELCO, and you know it. All right, so make sure you follow the podcast everywhere you go. Make sure you give the podcast a 5-star review wherever you listen to it. Because it's important to us here at Delaware County that you get the credit that you deserve on and off the course in any way possible. I love doing this podcast for you. Again, I do not get paid for this podcast. I enjoy just talking about cross country. I enjoy meeting different people. And obviously, I enjoy breaking down races and breaking down attributes and breaking down rankings as much as possible. So please make sure you still show that love and that support for the DELCO Cross Country Podcast. And even if you're like, hey, I want to listen to part of the podcast, please just listen to it. Press play. Give this podcast the listens. I want to keep breaking. I want to be over 100 listens for every single podcast this upcoming year. That's not too hard. If you just press play and just keep it playing for a few minutes, give it the time that this podcast and that you deserve each and every week, because we want to take over the world with this cross-country programming and how things are run. So again, thank you so much for your support. My name is Kevin Kee, and I am logging off, reminding you, now that we are close to the first meet of the season, to get out there, run strong, and move.